The forest should have been shifting into autumn. It should have been shedding its leaves in slow cascades of amber and rust, carpeting the ground with a soft blanket that whispered under the paws of animals. But this year, the trees clung to their leaves with a stubbornness almost desperate. Branches swayed in cool winds, yet refused to release a single amber flake. It was as if the forest was holding its breath, refusing to move into the next season. A lone wild boar named Duro emerged from a thicket, his tusks curved like crescents polished by years of rooting in tough earth. His bristles stood tall along his spine, coarse and dark, streaked with pale grey where age had left its mark. He was large for a boar, not in a monstrous way, but in a way that carried weight, memory, and authority. He had survived wolves, hunters, floods, and the bitter winter 2 years ago when snow buried half the forest under silence. This morning, something in the air felt wrong. Duro paused just past the forest border where pine gave way to open meadow. His hooves pressed softly into damp soil. The grass by the meadow edge bent under his weight, but the leaves above him stayed rigid, clinging to the branches like frightened animals. His nose lifted high, nostrils flaring. The usual autumn scents, rotting leaves, mushroom blooms, cooling earth, were missing. Instead he caught a faint metallic bitterness carried from deeper in the forest. A smell so faint a human would miss it completely, but Duro did not. He grunted softly, unsettled. Behind him the forest felt restless. The birds were quiet, squirrels stayed hidden. Even insects buzzed with a strange irregularity. Only the wind moved, brushing through treetops without shaking loose a single leaf. Duro crossed into the meadow anyway. He had not ventured beyond the forest border in months, not since the last encounter with humans. A pack of dogs had chased him near the farmland, cornering him against a fence. He had escaped only by smashing a broken post and charging through a narrow gap. The memory left an invisible scar on his thoughts, one he wouldn't forget soon. But boars did not survive by hiding. They survived by moving. So he walked. The meadow grasses whispered around him, dry tips brushing against his belly. Rabbits fled at his approach. A crow cawed from above, circling him once before turning its attention to something else in the distance. Duro reached a small stream and drank, though the water tasted vaguely stale. The source upstream was slower than usual, as if something blocked it. He drank anyway. A boar didn't waste water, even questionable water. When he lifted his head again, he saw movement. A deer, thin, trembling, looking around as if unsure whether to run or collapse. Its ribs showed clearly. Its eyes glistened with confusion, not fear. Duro snorted, testing the air around the deer. No scent of predators, no blood. But something was wrong. The deer took 2 steps toward Duro. Boars and deer rarely interacted, but this animal didn't behave like any deer Duro had seen. It lowered its head. Not in challenge, in exhaustion. Then it fainted. Duro backed up instinctively, bristles rising along his shoulders. The deer lay still, chest rising and falling rapidly, breath shallow. A sound broke the stillness. The cracking of twigs. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. Not a predator. Not a deer. Not a boar. Humans. Duro stiffened, lowering his body, ready to bolt into the forest shadows. 2 figures emerged from between the trees wearing uniforms the colour of moss and soil. Forest wardens. Their boots sank into the earth with each step. One carried a tranquilizer case, the other a metal sampling kit slung over his shoulder. Another one, the older warden said, kneeling beside the collapsed deer. 3rd this week. The younger one exhaled sharply. It's spreading faster than we thought. Duro stayed perfectly still, hidden by tall grass. He listened. The older warden placed a hand gently on the deer's neck. Heart rate's too fast. Dehydration, possibly toxins building up. The stream's off too. Toxins. From where? The younger asked. The older man shook his head. Farmland runoff? Illegal dumping? Maybe something upstream died and contaminated the water, but the leaves… He paused, glancing up at the unmoving canopy. The forest isn't shedding, it's holding everything in. Juro's ears twitched. Humans rarely noticed seasonal behaviour, but these ones were watching closely. The warden stood. We need to take water samples from deeper inside the forest, and soil. Whatever's happening, it's not normal. The younger warden nodded, attaching a tracking beacon to the deer's leg. Do you think it'll get back up? Only if we act fast. They lifted the deer carefully, placing it onto a stretcher. Juro watched them carry it deeper into the woods. Their voices faded behind rustling shrubs. He snorted once, softly. Concern, not fear. Something was poisoning the forest. Boars survived nearly anything, but not poisoned water, not sick soil, not dead roots. Juro made a decision. He would go deeper into the forest than he had in years. The undergrowth resisted him at first, thickets of bramble, low branches, tangled roots. He moved steadily, pushing through with the strength of an animal who had shaped this forest path many times before. Birds flitted through the branches above him, agitated. He saw no squirrels, no signs of fresh fungus, no mushrooms growing where they should have exploded in early autumn. A patch of ferns grew limp, their fronds browning at the edges. Boars rarely paid attention to plant health unless they ate those plants, but Juro sensed something unnatural. He crossed deeper into the forest. The air felt heavier, the silence deeper, the ground softer, as if moisture hid too close to the surface without sinking in. When he reached a clearing, he froze. Before him lay the old pond, once the lively heart of the forest. In spring, frogs sang here until sunset. Ducks rested in the reeds. Boar families rolled in the mud near the water's edge. But now, the pond was still. No ripples, no insects, no birdsong. The surface lay smooth like dark glass. The leaves of overhanging branches reflected upon it perfectly, unmoving. Juro approached the waterline. The smell struck him immediately. Stale, metallic, wrong. He dipped his snout slightly, without touching the surface. Nothing moved, not even when wind brushed the treetops above, as if the pond refused to breathe. A soft rustle behind him made him turn. A fox emerged from the shadows, its coat patchy, its gait uncertain. It stared at the pond, then at Juro, eyes clouded with something like fear or sickness. Juro grunted low, warning it to keep distance. The fox only blinked. It stepped toward the pond. Juro blocked its path. His instinct screamed, "Don't drink, don't touch." The fox lowered its head, too weak to argue. Juro nudged it aside, not violently, but firmly enough to turn it away. The fox stumbled, then collapsed beside a tree, panting. Juro watched the pond again. Something glimmered beneath the surface. Faint movement, sluggish, unnatural. He backed up. Leaves should have fallen by now. The trees refused, the pond refused, even the ground refused to drain water. The forest was holding everything in. Juro turned to leave, to return to the forest border, to search for safer water, to guide other boars away from danger. But just as he stepped into the brush, a metallic snap echoed through the clearing, followed by a desperate squeal. Juro spun sharply. Lines of steel wire glinted in early evening light. Snares, hidden, freshly placed, human-made, near the pond. And someone had stepped into one. A young wolf pup, no older than a few months, kicked frantically as the snare tightened around its front leg, dragging it upward. The pup cried, paws scrambling, teeth gnashing the air. Juro stiffened. Boars hated snares. They killed silently, cruelly, without need. He didn't chase wolves. Wolves didn't chase him unless desperate. But this was not about wolves. This was about the forest. He charged. The pup shrieked, twisting as the rope tightened. Juro lunged beneath it, tusks angled upward. One swipe. 2. The rope snapped, flinging the metal anchor into the bushes. The pup collapsed onto Juro's back, then rolled to the ground with a thud. It scrambled behind a tree, whimpering but free. Juro stood breathing heavily, his sides rising and falling, heart pounding with fury he didn't often feel. A snare near poisoned water meant one thing. Someone wanted dead animals without lifting a gun. Someone was using the forest's sickness. Leaves rustled behind him. Juro froze. A human silhouette stepped out from behind a tree, thin, hooded, carrying a bag of metallic tools and syringes. Too quiet, too careful, not a warden, not a ranger. Juro's muscles tensed. The human whispered, "Easy now." Not to soothe, but to approach. Juro lowered his head. His bristles rose. The forest refused to shed its leaves. The water refused to sink. And now, the boar refused to retreat. He charged. Juro launched forward with the full weight of instinct behind him, a raw, explosive surge of muscle and momentum. His hooves tore into the earth, sending clumps of damp soil flying. His tusks gleamed pale in the thinning afternoon light. The humans standing near the snare didn't expect the charge. Poachers rarely do. They imagine boars as clever, cautious, reluctant to confront humans. They forget that every animal has a breaking point. And Juro had reached his. The human jerked back, cursing, fumbling for a tranquilizer pistol at his belt, but too slow. Juro rammed into him with the force of a falling tree. The man flew sideways into a cluster of underbrush, crashing through brittle twigs and landing hard. The forest rang with the sudden violence. Birds exploded from branches. The wolf pup yelped and fled into a hollow log. Even the stagnant pond rippled faintly, the only movement it had shown all season. But Juro did not pursue the fallen human. He stopped, snorting, stamping, bristles erect and rattling with adrenaline. His breath came in short, powerful bursts. His tusks dripped mud and leaves. The human staggered to his knees, clutching his ribs. His hood fell back, revealing a gaunt face, eyes bloodshot, jaw tight with both anger and pain. He reached again for the tranquilizer pistol. Juro growled, a deep, resonant rumble rarely heard from boars, the kind that rises from the diaphragm and warns predators that the line has been crossed, and the human understood. He froze. Juro's attention shifted, sharply, instinctively. From deeper in the forest came a sound he had not heard in weeks, a single leaf detaching, soft, gentle, natural. It spiraled downward and landed near his hooves. Just one, only one. But it fell, and that terrified him more than the human. The forest wasn't refusing to shed leaves. It was mourning, holding on to them until something critical broke inside it. Some threshold of damage, contamination, imbalance. And now something had snapped. The human scrambled backward, keeping low. He retrieved a small case fallen from his shoulder, metal instruments clanking inside, and began crawling away between the roots. Juro could have pursued, but a greater instinct pulled him toward the falling leaf. He nudged it gently with his snout. No scent of rot, no autumn musk, just dryness, as if the leaf had died without completing its season. He looked upward. The canopy remained stubbornly full, leaves motionless. Branches refused to sway. Even the wind seemed afraid to disturb them again. Further off, the human crashed through brush, vanishing toward the old logging road that illegally connected farmland to the forest interior. His hurried footsteps faded. Juro didn't follow. Something deeper was calling him. He turned his gaze back to the pond, a dark, glassy disk reflecting the branches above. A sick mirror, a wrong one. The wolf pup emerged from hiding, limping slightly, one leg tender from the snare, but otherwise unharmed. Its eyes found Juro's, uncertain but grateful. Juro snorted softly, signaling it to stay back. And then, another sound. Rustling. Human voices. 2, maybe 3. Juro's ears twitched. Back near the forest's edge, Amina and Samir moved quickly through the underbrush, ducking under branches, careful with their footsteps. Samir held the radio. Amina gripped her sampling case tighter than before. "Another distress signal," she said quietly. "That beacon we attached to the deer? It's pinging near here." Samir nodded, and the drone thermal picked up movement. Could be an injured animal. Amina's eyes narrowed. Or something worse. They stepped into the clearing and froze. The pond lay before them like a steel plate. No ripples, no algae bloom, no insects dancing above it, not even the faint concentric circles that appear when air rises from decay. Samir inhaled sharply. "That's wrong." Amina stepped closer. "It's suffocating. No oxygen exchange. It's sealing itself." Samir scanned the area. "Tracks. A wolf pup. And these are—" He crouched. "Boar tracks. Large male." Amina looked around. And where is he now? As if summoned, Juro stepped from behind a cluster of trees. Not aggressively, not fearfully, simply present. Amina instinctively took one step backward, but Samir gently held her sleeve. "He's not charging." Juro stared at them, his breath visible in short puffs. His bristles flattened slightly, not submissive, not welcoming, simply neutral. Assessing, Amina slowly raised her hands, palms open. "Easy, big boy. We're not here to hurt you." Juro's ears pivoted, reading her tone. The wolf pup, emboldened, trotted toward Amina, limping. Its small body shivered. Amina knelt immediately. "Oh, you poor thing." She examined its paw. "Snare injury." Samir stiffened. "Poachers?" Amina nodded grimly. "Most likely. This forest has been too quiet. When it gets quiet, it's either wolves or men." She looked at the ground near the wolf pup and found the snapped snare wire. Samir knelt beside her. "And this cut." He ran a finger along the broken end. "That wasn't done with tools. Something tore it." Amina slowly turned toward Juro. Juro didn't move. Samir exhaled. "He saved it." Amina swallowed. Her eyes drifted to the pond. "This place is collapsing. Animals are desperate. Predators are protecting prey. Leaves won't fall. The ecosystem is trying to adapt to something it wasn't built for." Samir glanced at the pond nervously. "What exactly is it adapting to?" Amina didn't answer immediately. Instead, she crouched at the water's edge and dipped a glass vial. As soon as the vial touched the surface, the water clung to it, thick, syrup-like, resisting the dip, pulling upward with unnatural adhesion. Samir recoiled. "Why is it behaving like gel?" "It's not gel," Amina murmured. "It's water with its structure destroyed. The chemical contamination has altered its flow properties." She capped the vial. "This isn't from fertilizer alone. This is industrial." Samir's voice grew tight. "Dumping?" Amina nodded. "Into a connected aquifer. It contaminated the groundwater. The soil sealed itself in response. That's why the leaves won't fall. The forest doesn't want anything decomposing here. The decomposition layer would poison everything." Juro listened. He understood none of the words, but he understood tone, urgency, fear, recognition of danger. He pawed the ground once, hard, sending a vibration spreading through the clearing. Amina looked at him. He knows. Juro nudged the wolf pup gently, pushing it toward Amina as though entrusting it to humans. A gesture almost no wild boar would ever do. Samir stared in disbelief. "He wants us to help it," Amina whispered, "and the forest." Just then, a cracking sound echoed across the woods. Sharp, violent, followed by another and another. Samir's eyes widened. "The trees!" Amina turned sharply. Leaves finally began falling, not drifting softly, not rustling, not swirling lazily. They dropped all at once, like dead weight, striking the ground in wet plops. Thousands of them, a forest shedding everything it had been holding. Juro flinched, instincts alive, bristles rising. Amina whispered, voice trembling. The forest isn't transitioning into autumn, it's collapsing. Duro stepped forward, body tense, head low. Something much worse than poisoned water or snares was awakening beneath the forest floor. And it was the boar, not the humans, who sensed the first tremor.